And you've clearly connected with so many different types of groups and communities. So I'd love to hear maybe what types of skills are needed. I mean, there's a variety of skills needed, but what do you think are important in terms of how you approach people and how you run these projects in the first place?
Well, I think where it gets hardest, I suppose, is where there's a conflict of opinion, and where you're working with people who might take the exact opposite view to what you would think is the logical thing to do. And it's really important to, well, first of all, stay calm and listen to what people are saying, and to try and find some common ground and to understand why people are feeling the way they are feeling. In our area, recently, the low traffic neighbourhoods has been challenging for, well, it's polarised communities, I would say, which is it's a good example of where I think only now, I feel like it's starting to, I think a common ground is starting to be found around public transport and transport more generally, and how can we make sure that, because everyone wants safe, quiet roads, everyone wants to be able to get to where they need to get as quickly as possible. How can we achieve that? Low traffic neighbourhoods, well, I can understand where people are coming from when they say it slows them getting to places in their cars. And that's a difficult message to communicate, and then to listen to why people are responding in the way they are, and then finding those solutions on a really very tight budget and timescale, because people need to see change as well. I think I'm a big believer in action learning, I suppose it was called at some point, I don't know, but about listening to what people are saying, learning, and then acting on that, and then reviewing, and then going back and listening and learning again. So small steps, I suppose, but always thinking about how your previous step has worked or not worked, or how effective it's been.
Absolutely. And
that can be sorry, that can be a formal process, or it can be something that you can be aware of in your own head, depending on what works well for you, or whether you need to communicate it across to people.
Well, absolutely. And I think even with despite sometimes our best efforts, it's not always easy to communicate some of our intentions and what we want to do, especially when it comes to running community groups and doing big changes and actually pulling those through. So I can imagine, like you said, communication, listening to people is absolutely crucial. But then also, I guess what you're doing is kind of like the communication in terms of presentation to others, because you've ran a lot of these groups and ran some of these projects, and actually it's so important to put that message across, right, would you say?
Yes, and I think this is getting back to creativity, or what I think of as being creative. Sometimes you can, let's say, be in a discussion with someone, and there's a clash, and it seems to be completely unresolvable. I think there are creative ways to first of all plan to avoid that as best as possible, and also find. And I think it's always good to have different hooks into a conversation, to find different ways of approaching it that might bring about a different resolution or solution, hopefully.
Absolutely. Well, 100%. And I can hear that you're definitely very passionate about bringing people together and driving these community causes. I've seen a lot of the resources that you've created, and you've really worked with a lot of different types of organizations as well. So what would you say that you're actually passionate about? Is there an easy way to say what your passion is?
Well, it is about connecting people for common good, effectively, and that's well, to give an example, I suppose what I think of as one of the successes, Pagnell Primary School, a school in Wheely Castle, which I did some work on to promote creativity in the classroom. And actually, through that work, I suppose we identified that one of the big problems was community engagement, and that wasn't something that was on the curriculum. And likewise, with the children, there's a real problem. There were no free activities after school. The after-school clubs didn't provide anything free. So we started a Pagnell After School Club, we started Cat's Eyes, which was like a group that was going around celebrating achievements in the school. And we started to involve in the children. There was a core group of children who are young archivists, who are effectively news reporters as well, who went around and documented these things. And actually, within a relatively short amount, about a year or so, we were successful with an HLF application for a significant chunk of money. Fantastic. To create the first and still the only repository archive in a state primary school in Weedy Castle. Wow. In the UK. So that was a real achievement. And in fact, the school itself, I think the support within the school was absolutely crucial for that to happen. Not just from senior leadership, not just from teachers, from parents, from children, from everyone in the community. And the school was so committed to it, they actually took a week off curriculum to launch the event. And where we ran a whole load of activities funded by HLF. Thank you very much, HLF. And that was in 2013. Wow. And now I'm going to be well, it's just been delayed actually, which is frustrating because of the restrictions we're still under for a little while longer. A celebration, an offset celebration at the school, and we'll be restarting again in September, the after school club.
That's fantastic. Congratulations. And I bet everything started from an idea, and everything started from this is wrong, something needs to happen, something needs to change, and actually pulling through all of the efforts and what you did and what you achieved, and now what the school has achieved as a consequence of all of that effort.